This is a thing of beauty. Sometimes beauty is only skin deep. The noise canceling was a little disappointing. I'm not sure you're going to love the sound of these. In fact, it felt kind of boring at times.
I take back all the bad things I've ever said about Bowers Wilkins. Hey there, my name is Norb, and I haven't been talking badly about Bowers Wilkins, but if you saw my review on the Px7 S2, you know that I wasn't crazy about it. A bunch of you recommended that I try the S2e, the follow-up version, so here it is. Does the Px7 S2e, the E stands for evolved, address my issues with the previous version? Some, but not all. Now, these normally retail for $399, and I bought these for about $260, so they definitely go on sale. And you can even buy them refurbished from Bowers Wilkins directly. This video is not sponsored, but there's a link to the product in the description that helps the channel out. Finally, if you're new to the channel, I score things from 1 to 5, where 1 means I hate it and 5 means that I love it. So let's look at how these are built. Starting with the case, I give it a 4 out of 5. It's a hard shell with textured fabric on the outside and microfiber on the inside that looks and feels great. The headphones don't fold in, although they do lay flat, and it has a storage pocket for included cables. I like the case, but I would have loved a small mesh pocket for even more storage. As for looks, these are sophisticated and distinctive, 5 out of 5. I love them, but I don't include looks in the final score because it is entirely subjective. The Px7 S2e comes in 4 colors: white, black, blue, and green. The headphones are plastic, but they look metal, and there is a metal touch around the ear cups, although I wish they had kept the gold touch of the previous version. There's also textured fabric behind the ear cups and above the headband, which gives it a very premium feel. That said, for build, I'm giving these 4 out of 5, but that comes with a very big question mark. They feel sturdy, the materials feel solid, and they don't creak. The buttons also don't jiggle. They weigh in at 307 grams or 10.8 ounces, so they're not very heavy. Everything about these feels great, but you'll find people are complaining about leather coming off from under the headband or from the ear pads. That obviously hasn't happened to me. They do come with a 2-year warranty, but the ear pads are only covered for 90 days, but they are user replaceable. For comfort, I like these a lot, 4.5 out of 5. Clamping force is solid without being too tight. The ear pads are plush, but they're not huge. I do wish the ear hole was a little bit larger, but I can happily wear these for hours, even with my glasses on. The speakers inside are angled, so my big ears don't really rub up too much against the fabric. Ear heat is not bad, but it is warmer than I would like at times, and the headband distributes the weight well, so I didn't experience that heat spot at the top of the head. So let's talk about how you use them. For basic user interactions, the score is a 3 out of 5, and for general features and connectivity, I'm giving these a 4 out of 5. These have buttons, so no touch controls, a single USB-C port for both charging and audio, and wear detection that pauses and starts the music when you take them off and put them back on. You can turn that feature off or on, or adjust how sensitive it is using the app, which I will talk about in a bit. The button scheme is super simple, but I want to call attention to the quick action button. You can use it to either control the noise canceling or access your voice assistant, but not both. And you set this up using the app. They could have done both by just making access to the assistant a long press, which takes me to the battery, and that gets a 3 out of 5. These get around 30 hours of playback on a single charge. There's a quick charge that will give you 7 hours and 15 minutes, and they fully charge in 2 hours, which isn't bad. But you can't use these passively. You have to always turn them on to use them, even when plugged in. I don't like that because it ages the battery faster. On the bright side, using the USB-C cable will charge them while passing sound through, and it stays connected via Bluetooth when you're using them wired, so you can still use the equalizer and stay connected to all your other devices. They pair with up to 8 devices and can stay connected with 2 at a time. For me, this feature worked flawlessly between my phone and my computer. But when it comes to features, that's pretty much it. What's there works well, but there isn't much, and I would have liked to see at least location tracking and sound personalization through something like the Mimi hearing test. The place to manage all these features is the Bowers Wilkins music app, which I give a 4 out of 5. It is mostly well designed and has a lot of useful features for making it your audio hub, especially if you have other Bowers Wilkins products. But sometimes I have issues connecting to it, and I have to swipe the app shut and relaunch it to actually use it. When you launch the app, you get immediate access to your noise canceling controls and the music hub. You can use the app to connect to your streaming services like Tidal, Deezer, and Qobuz, and use the app as your primary music app. I use Qobuz, Spotify, and Apple Music, so I wish the selection was a little bit wider. To get to the full headphone controls, you have to click on Settings and then select your device. This was the only part of the design that I really didn't like, but I get it. This app is meant for all of your Bowers Wilkins products, not just the headphones. For noise canceling, I'm giving the Px7 S2e a 3.5 out of 5. It is right in line with what I expect at this price. Good for most people in most cases. And you can turn it off entirely, which is really nice, especially if you have tinnitus Or if you use these with hearing aids. Not every headphone at this price range will let you do that, which is just silly to me. Now, the priority here is with music quality over noise canceling strength, and here's what I mean. Bowers Wilkins advertises these as having hybrid noise cancellation. This is a bit different from active noise canceling, which is what most people are used to. Active noise cancellation just cancels noise from the outside. Hybrid noise cancellation both cancels external noises and tracks the music inside of the headphones to make sure that the noise canceling doesn't cancel parts of the music. It's also not adaptive noise canceling, meaning that the noise canceling doesn't try to do things like compensate for air pressure when you travel or compensate the level randomly based on the sounds around you. You don't get that crunching or popping noise other headphones get when you're on a plane. As for the rest of life when you're not on a plane, these are fine for low steady noises. Voices are kind of muted, but if someone is talking or watching TV around you, it'll probably come through. When I go to cafes with these, there's usually enough to get rid of the crowd noise, but if music is playing loudly or people are talking loudly, it'll come through and I have to turn the music up some. Transparency, on the other hand, is excellent, and I give these a 4 out of 5. The sound isn't totally natural, but it focuses on voices, which is fantastic. If you have a hard time hearing someone in a crowd, the transparency on these might actually help you. For phone calls, these get a 4 out of 5. They sound as good as can be expected from Bluetooth headphones, and the noise and wind rejection are great for taking calls when I'm walking outside. Take a listen.
This is the sound of the Px7 S2e's microphone in a quiet room. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Again, this is the microphone on the Px7 S2e. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm walking around outside. There's a little bit of traffic. There's a little bit of wind, but not a ton of either.
For sound, these get a 4 out of 5, both for music and movies. And I'll talk about both, as well as how they do with different types of music genres, so stick around. But if you're finding this useful, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing if you want to see more content like this, or maybe even using that thanks button. I hate to give you homework, but that stuff really helps the channel out. The Px7 S2e have become one of my favorite headphones to listen to, and a definite improvement over the previous version, largely due to the new 24-bit digital signal processing that is more on par with the Bowers Wilkins flagship Px8. The default tuning on these is warm, it's relaxing, and it's excellent for long stretches of general purpose listening. Using the USB-C cable upgrades the audio experience significantly. The characteristics of the sound remain the same, but there is definitely a better overall resonance and resolution to the sound. To me, it just sounded more complete and more real. Still, cable or not, I do find it a little bit bass heavy and dark for my taste, at least by default, even if the bass is smooth with a good physicality to it, especially music with lots of bass and sub-bass, like Acid Raid by Lorne or Atemporal by Lucretia Dalt. I didn't find the sound to be bloated, but some people might find it a little bit muddy. Now, the app includes a 2-band EQ, which you can use to tune the bass and the treble. I don't mind the simplicity of the EQ, and in fact, I think most people will appreciate it, but I would have loved a little bit more control. Moving to the mids, where voices and most instruments tend to live and where the warmth comes from, they're well presented in full. They do give up some detail for that warm sound, but you can bring in this detail by pushing up the treble in the EQ. This will make voices and instruments pop a bit more. The default treble is decent, but definitely laid back. Otherwise, the sound is excellent for this price range. Left-right separation is fine, and the soundstage isn't cramped, but it's definitely intimate, which I think most consumers will actually enjoy. On a more technical note, if you're on iPhone or Mac, these will let you use the SBC or AAC codecs, which sounds fine. If you're using Android or Windows, you'll also have access to aptX, aptX HD, and aptX Adaptive, which should give you better overall sound than AAC. If you're wondering why, I made a whole video on that you can watch after this. I'll link it in the description. And note that these do use Bluetooth 5.2, but they don't use LC3, which is what's supposed to replace SBC. Now, let's talk about specific music genres. I found these to be excellent for indie, folk, some jazz, and some rock genres. Voices were great, and just about everything sounded smooth and relaxing. Livelier jazz, salsa, and merengue came off as relaxed, but that was a double-edged sword. They weren't fatiguing, but they also weren't as lively as I'm used to them being. With electronic music, the higher bass and the more relaxed treble of the headphones plays very well. It's driving and it's fun, but I never found it fatiguing. Metal and symphonic rock were hit or miss. The high bass definitely gives those genres some energy, but the relaxed tuning in the higher regions made that music more relaxed than I like. Hip hop and pop are a similar story. Great bass and bloom, but the lack of detail in higher regions keeps this on the more relaxed side, which might actually be good for some. The bass might be too much for some pop, however. Finally, with classical, which is my favorite genre, I found these relaxing, but I never find myself really clamoring for classical on these because it was almost too relaxed. Moving the bass down some and the treble up definitely opened up the sound a bit, and it brought a lot of that engagement back in. Now with movies, the Px7 S2e was a surprise. Movies sound exciting and they remind me of going to the theater, in both good and bad ways. The bass is impactful and the imaging is decent. It's not as good as something with spatial sound, but I don't think most people will really find that to be a negative, unless you're already used to this. The problem is, again, the relaxed sound. Sometimes the bass feels a little bit overpowering against the vocal clarity, especially with action scenes, even though that same bass makes these scenes sound more exciting. So my final score is a 3.8 out of 5. These are something that I'm very comfortable recommending to most people. It's comfortable, it's well balanced, it's responsive, and it's perfect for when I just want to relax. Despite my issues with it sounding a little bit bass heavy by default, I've actually really enjoyed the S2e. But now, how do the much improved Px7 S2e stack up against things like the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra or the Sennheiser Momentum 4 or the Sony XM5? I'm working on those comparisons now, so if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button to know when those reviews drop. In the meantime, check out the reviews I've done on literally all of those right here. Or the comparisons if I've already released those by the time that you're watching this. Or you can click here to view my latest video. In any case, thanks for watching.